at the EducationUSA Center at the Fulbright Commission, Italy in Rome. Before we start, I would like to give you some information about EducationUSA. EducationUSA is the network of hundreds of advising centers supported by the US Department of State. We provide millions of international students with accurate, comprehensive and current information about how to apply to US colleges and university. I really invite you to find more information about our activities at our website www.educationusa.info, on our Facebook page facebook.com/educationusa, and on our Twitter page twitter.com/edusaupdates. Today we will talk about graduate programs in the US. So we will look at basically at the master programs available at US institution. We will talk about the admission process, so all the steps which are necessary in order to get the admission at master programs in the US, and at least we will talk about financial aid opportunities and scholarship offered to international students to pursue such education. Now, each year there are a lot of international students, hundreds of thousands of international students who move abroad to the US to carry out their study and their research activities. There are several different reasons to study in the US. You have to consider that the United States has thousands of colleges, institutions, which are famous for the quality of their education, for the numerous programs which are offered, for the flexibility to change fields of study and schools. And at the same time, the wide range of tuition and living costs make the United States affordable for thousands of international students each year. Then, before starting looking at how to find the institution, how to find the universities, how to identify the master's program, in my opinion, you have to start asking yourself why you would like to pursue a master program in the US, a graduate education at US institution. Basically, you have to start identifying the primary reason for pursuing a graduate education in the US. You have to consider that the graduate school's experience is very different in many aspects from the undergraduate studies and of course from work. In graduate schools, you are expected to work independently. You are expected to take the initiative in your studies. You have to monitor your own progress, and you will have more work to accomplish in less time than you would think possible. So I think that the first step is that to ask to yourself why now you should start looking for a master, you start looking for a graduate education in the US. You have to answer to this first question before starting all the process which will lead you to apply directly to a master program in the US. Now, let's start talking about how to choose the right university, how to choose the right institution offering the right graduate programs for you. According to my experience when I advise Italian students, usually the students are interested in looking for a university with a high level of education and with a high offerings of degrees and programs. You have to consider that in the United States there are more than 1,000 institutions offering programs leading to a graduate education. So basically offering master's and PhD courses. At the same time, you have to consider that the university should be considered as a whole. So you have to look at the availability of facilities. So for instance, libraries, laboratories, the services for students, and particularly for international students, the availability of housing choices, opportunities, and of course you have to take a look at the cost of this program, and at the same time you have to consider whether the US institution offers scholarship and or financial aid opportunities for you as international students. And obviously you have to check whether the institution, whether the program is accredited. The accreditation is very important in the United States because it's a process carried out by a private agency, basically, which measure the quality of education of such institution. So through the website of the chair, through the website of the US Department of Education, you will be able to verify whether the institution, whether the program, whether the universities is accredited. Now let's talk about how to find the right master, how to find the right program. According to my experience as advisors, the international students, basically, when they have to start looking for a master program, are concerned with the quality of education, with the quality of the academic curriculum characterizing the program. You have to consider that basically the quality of the master depends on the faculty. It's strictly connected to the professor. They will influence your day-to-day life as a student once you will get admission there. And not to mention your future, obviously. So you have to ask yourself, do their interest, the faculty interest match yours? What have they published? How current is their work? Usually, when I advise the students here at our advising center, I notice that in many cases they choose the master only once they have consulted their own professor, for example, their professor at their own institution. And usually they ask to the professor which are the most important masters or graduate programs offered within that particular field of interest. So, in my experience, the first resource of information about finding the right program in the US, in many cases, could be your professors, because in many cases your professor had the opportunity in the past to move abroad in the US, to explore the opportunities offered at US institutions. It could be a great help for you. In many cases, you have to consider many other opportunities, in particular whether the institution, whether the programs will give you the opportunity to carry out research activities, and this is particularly true in the fields of science and technologies, for instance. Of course, you have to verify whether there are availability of funding opportunities, for example, scholarship, graduate or teaching assistantship that will help you to cover the cost of the program and at the same time to carry out your study and research activity. All these elements together will lead you to find the right program for you. I would like also to suggest you to use some online resources that will help you identify the right program, in particular with regard to master program in the US. The first one is the website of the Petersons, www.petersons.com. And the second one is the grad school's website, www.gradschools.com. Those websites will help you in identifying the right masters for you in the US at US institution according to your fields of interest. Now let's take a look at the admission process. In many cases, the admission process for master's programs in the US is quite different from the admission process in your home country. The admission process in the US is an holistic process which take into account all your skills, all your capabilities, all your curriculum. In particular, the admission process will evaluate your academic record, will take into account the scores of your admission test, will take into account the record, the recommendation letter that you will be requested to provide to the US institution, will take account on your curriculum, your resume, and also will take into account also the academic essays that you are requested to provide the US institution. So all these elements together, your academic transcript, the test scores, the recommendation letters, the CV, the essays, all these elements together will determine whether you will get acceptance to your master's program in the US. And it's very important in order to get admitted, but also in order to get a scholarship, that you start planning this process very in advance, very early. Usually we suggest our students to start planning the admission 1 year in advance, or at least 18 months in advance, because you really need to have time to prepare your essays, to find the right recommenders, to start taking your admission test. Now, let's take a look to the elements characterizing the application process. As I told you, one of the elements are the admission tests. Typically, for international students, there are two typologies of this test. The graduate standardized test, GRE test, or GMAT test. And this test will basically measure your competence with regard, for example, verbal skill, quantitative and reasoning skill, writing abilities. So GMAT is basically required for MBA program, and GRE test is required for all the other graduate programs. All these tests, which are required both to international students and US students, will evaluate your skills with regard your reasoning and your writing abilities. At the same time, as non-native English speaker, you will be also required to take the English proficiency test. In particular, you will be required to take or the TOEFL test or the IELTS test. And these tests will evaluate you with regard your skill in listening, speaking, reading and writing English from an academic point of view. I really suggest you, when you first land on the website of your universities, of your college in the US, you will find under the requirements section the score requested in order to qualify to that program, both for GRE and GMAT and both for TOEFL or IELTS tests. And it's very important that you start in advance to prepare for taking those tests, both the GRE, GMAT and the TOEFL and the IELTS test. And please note that in many cases the scholarship, the financial aid, depends on the score you reach in each single test. So I really suggest you to start in advance in preparing for taking those tests, because are very important not only for get the admission but also to get financial aid. Let's talk about recommendation letters. According to my experience, the recommendation letters, for instance, are tools, are an instrument that our students here in Italy are not so familiar with. For instance, in my country, in order to get admission to Italian institution, you are not required to provide the institution with recommendation letters. But in the US are a very important elements characterizing the admission process, the applications process. So it's very important that you choose the correct person that will write the recommendation letter. In many cases, the recommendation letters are written by faculty, by your professors. In other cases, and this is the case for MBA programs, they are also written by professionals, and are very important because these letters will strengthen your application, will give to the admission committee another picture of your strength point. So it's very, very important to identify the correct recommender. And maybe before the recommender start writing the recommendation letter, we really suggest our students to take some time with the recommender to explain him or her what is the objective of a recommendation letter, which is the strengthening of your admission application in order to get admitted and also to get financial aid. Another element characterizing the application is that of your curriculum vitae, your resume, that will give you a short picture of your academic curriculum, and also a picture, a track of your professional experience. We suggest our students also to underline, to remark also all the elements that could be of interest to the admission committee. So, for example, the honors, the awards, the publication of the student, and at the same time extracurricular activities, for example, whether the student volunteer among his community. All these elements are very important in order to present a very effective resume or curriculum vitae. In many cases you will be also required to provide the institution with an essay. And in particular, the essay is very important because in many cases you will be requested to reply a specific question, and you will have to clarify why you have chosen that institution, why you have chosen that master's or that MBA, what are the objectives of your study project. So it's very important to write a very effective essay. And when you write the essay, you have to put yourself in the position of the admission committee members. Because when they read the essay, the member of the admission committee look for the evidence that you are prepared for the graduate school, that you are aware of what you are going to attend at US institution. So it's a very crucial element of the application, your essay. So also in this case, it's very important that you start planning in advance how to construct your essay. In some cases, before submitting the application to US institution, we suggest our students to start writing to the faculty members, to the faculty which are involved, of course, in the masters of interest of the students. Because thanks to this conversation with the US faculties, you will be able to enrich your essay with all the elements characterizing the US institution and your master program of interest, and you will be able to reflect these suggestions, these elements on your essays. So you will be able to enrich your statement with a suggestion that comes directly from the US institution. In some cases, you will be also required to take an interview with the school, and this is also true in particular in masters in the art fields, where international students are also required to take audition, for instance. In many cases, this interview, by the way, for international students does not require that you move abroad to the US so that you are physically at the campus, but you can take this interview simply by Skype. And the role of interviews is very important both for the institution and both for you as a student, because the institution will have the opportunity through the interview to better understand your strengths point and better understand if you are a good student for that master program. But at the same time, you will have the opportunity to use the interview as a moment to ask questions to the faculty, to the admission committee, to have and collect more information on the program, and at the same time to show them your communication skills. So also this moment of the application process is very important in order to get admitted to your master degree. Now, let's talk about financial assistance. As I told you before, many US institutions usually award international students with scholarship. In many cases, in the 90% of the cases, these scholarships are merit-based. This means that you will receive your scholarship only if you have submitted a very effective application when you for the admission. So once again, it's very important that you plan in advance, that you start work in advance on your application, that you start work in advance on your admission test, that you start work in advance on your essay, because the quality of your application is strictly connected on the possibility to be awarded with a scholarship. There are different typologies of financial assistance that an international student could be awarded with: the scholarship, which is merit-based, and and basically the scholarship have no repayment obligation. And the assistantship, usually this kind of financial assistance are required that the students receive a kind of stipend, and in exchange is required to give research or teaching activities during the study course. I also suggest you to take a look at other forms of financial aid. For example, there are governmental programs like the Fulbright program, like the Gilman program, which usually award international students with scholarship for master and PhD program in the US. I really suggest you to also check the opportunities offered within this program. Now, let's talk about working opportunities. As you may know, as a student with a F1 visa or with a J1 visa, you are not entitled to work when you are in the US. You are only allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during term time. So many students usually ask me whether they are entitled to work once they are at the campus in order to collect money to pay the tuition costs, but please remember that under an F1 visa, the classical study visa, or under the J1 visa, the exchange program visa, the international student is not allowed to work. You are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week, and basically inside the campus, not outside the campus. Now, this is a slide that summarizes what I told you. So it's strictly important that you start planning your admission to master program at US institution very in advance. Usually we invite students to start working on it during the summertime, because you have to start identifying the institution, start selecting the programs. Maybe you have also to start contacting the admission office of the universities in order to have more information about the admission process. You have to start also to contacting the faculty members of the university in order to collect more information possible in order to enrich and strengthen your admission process. Usually during the fall you also start working and taking the standardized test. As I told you before, this is a very important moment of your application process, because according to your score test you will increase the possibility to gain a scholarship. And then usually between November, December and January you will submit the application to the US institution. In many cases you will receive a notification from the US university in March, and when you will receive the notification of the admission, you will also receive the notification of the financial aid, because usually in many cases, if your application was a very effective application, you will receive admission together with scholarship or together with other forms of financial aid. Now, in order to collect other information about graduate programs in the US, I really suggest you to check all the information available on the EducationUSA website. There is a section specifically devoted to graduate programs and financial aid opportunities. So I really invite you to check our website, and I also suggest you to follow us through Facebook and Twitter, because on a weekly basis we usually give international student notice of scholarship opportunity. Now, I thank you for your attention, and I saw that you have some questions about my presentation, so I will be happy to reply to your question. He asked me, is there any scholarship available to study in the US? I'm weak in financial aid. Well, Abdul, as I told you, I really suggest you to check the EducationUSA website, because we have a specific section for financial aid opportunities for graduate students. At the same time, I really suggest you to contact one of our EducationUSA educational advisor. So let's see there are any questions. Greetings, I have a question. Do USA or Canadian universities allow graduate students for being admitted only with IELTS, if no GRE? Thank you for your questions. Usually, in order to get the admission from US universities at a graduate level, the international students is required to take or IELTS or TOEFL test. In many cases, the US institution accept both. So you are free to choose or TOEFL or IELTS test. But at the same time, both the international and both the US students are required to take the GRE test. GRE and IELTS tests are completely different. The IELTS test measure your English proficiency. The GRE test measure your math skill, your analytical skill, and you are required to take both. Let me check. Okay, there's another question. Which universities, please, could I read religion? Okay, thank you for your message. I really invite you to consult the Peterson's website or the grad school website, because you will be able to make a query to the system and identify all the university offering the study programs of your interest, in particular in this case in religious studies. So let's see if... Hello, thank you for the information. Please, if you can send me some information for PhD scholarship. Well, basically this information focused on master programs and not on PhD. But also in these cases, I really suggest you to take a look at the EducationUSA website, because there's the financial aid section which displays a lot of information about scholarship at a graduate level, and in this case you will find also information about PhD scholarship. Hello Sir, I wanted to get enrolled in graduate engineering program, that is Master of Science in civil engineering related field. Okay, thank you for your message. Also in this case I really suggest you to start from checking the Peterson's website, because we'll give you an idea on the master's program offered, in this case in the civil engineering, and you could easily start from these resources, and then you can start also, I mean, narrowing the information, checking the single website of the US institution you are interested in. So I'm still checking all your questions. Thank you. We are receiving a lot of questions. Let's see. Okay, there's a question also related. I'm wondering how can I ensure scholarship for full tuition, because I'm low income student from Serbia and I already tried to ensure scholarship in my country but without luck. Okay. With regard to financial aid, with regard to scholarship, you have to consider, you have to be prepared, because the US institution, it is true that they offer scholarship to international students, but this does not mean that the scholarship they offer are a full scholarship. In many cases, they offer only partial scholarship. In these cases, you have to start looking for other financial aid resources. I don't know whether you have, for instance, checked whether there are any opportunities under the Fulbright program. I'm aware that the Fulbright program is administered within all the European region, so I really suggest you to check with the Fulbright Commission of your country. And at the same time also, of course, to check with the US institution in order to integrate the scholarship of the institution with the scholarship which could be awarded through the Fulbright program. Let's check. There are a lot of questions related on the research of particular master program in the US. In this case, if you are interested in a particular field of studies, but you don't know which institution are offering these master courses, I really suggest you to start from taking a look at the Peterson's website and at the grad school's website, because through these online resources you will be able to see the US institution offering master's program of your interest in that particular fields of specialization. Okay, well, I would like to thank you for all your questions, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Feel free to contact us at EducationUSA for many other questions you could have. I really invite you to start from visiting our website, educationusa.info, and in particular, once you are on the EducationUSA website, you will be able to find one of our 400 centers around the world. So I really suggest you to contact the center closest to you and